All right, on my storyboard, now I want to add a title that says Blue Moon. So back to my Prelude workspace, in my bin, there is a Blue Moon Wolf.jpg graphic there. And so I'm going to add this first to the beginning of it. And remember, in order to do that, I have to hold the control button down and then drag it down to my sequence. And so when I let go, it did not delete anything. So one more time, I'll do that right. Hold control down, drag it in front, and then it moves everything behind it. So it didn't delete anything. It just inserted it at the beginning. And if I want to trim it a little bit, I am, and then click on that black space, that empty space, and hit delete on the keyboard to bring everything back to it. So that's my Blue Moon graphic. Now I want to add the words Blue Moon in front of it. There's a couple of ways to do this. So I'm going to show you what I think is the easy way. So on the easy way, let me zoom, in your sequence, in your sequence, there's a toolbox right next to the sequence, the timeline. And there's one that says T for text. So T for text there. Here I can zoom. So then it's this T button here. And so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on my screen where I want to add the text, and then type the words, Blue Moon. When I go back to that toolbox and hit the select key, which is the tool that we use the most, I can move it. I can drag the corners to make it bigger. But to change the font, I'm going to double click on it so it highlights it all and selects it. Now I got to go to properties. So go to window and then properties. This is the only time you really ever use that toolbar at the top except for autosave. Properties. And so properties is showing me what I want to do in this case, the font, the size, the color, the space between lines, all of that. So it opens up here in a little window. And then now I can change the font. So I want a font. You don't want to pick a font that's hard to read, but you don't want a basic one. So let me pick, for instance, something like that. Then I can change I can make it italics over here. I can change the size of the font to make it bigger. These are your alignments. So if I want it all centered, I can click centered. It'll center it in the box or on the page. I can change the kerning, the leading, the space between lines, the space between letters. So in this case, let's just make it space out a little bit. So I just changed the space between letters. Fill is your color inside of it. So when I click on it, I can make it blue. And then stroke is your outline. So I could check that to turn it on. I can change the point value of that stroke to make it bigger or smaller. So if I make it 1, it makes it thinner. If I make it 6, it makes it thicker. You can also add shadows by just checking these boxes and changing the colors. So now that is my font. So again, that's hidden in window under properties. So then it'll pop that window up for you. And now I'm going to hit Alt-Shift-0, just go back to my normal Prelude. Oh, it didn't work, of course. Click on this. Let's just go back to Prelude here. And again, select tool will let me move it on. And so you'll see it down here on your timeline. And so the way I have it, it's playing first before, and then it pops up, and then it continues over this video. So I may not want that exactly. So then on the timeline, I'm just going to trim it so it plays on here. And a nice little thing is to have a default transition, which is our dissolve. So on my timeline where that graphic is, when you hover over the back end or the front of your clip, it'll show that red arrow. So let me zoom so you could see it better. So see that red arrow pops up at the back. And then when it pops up, you can right click and apply default transition. So a default is a dissolve or mix, and you'll see it pop up there. And so when I go back to showing you what it looks like, I don't have a dissolve at the beginning. So when I hit play, it cuts in the title. And then at the end, because I added that default, it fades out. And so that's a nice, easy way of fading. And if I want to make it longer or slower, I can just double click on that effect in the timeline and change the duration. That's how long it lasts. So right now it's at 1 second and 0 frames. So if I want to make it longer or slower, I make it 3 seconds long. It's not a very long clip for that, but it pops in and then starts to dissolve over 3 seconds. So then that is how you add a default transition on anything. You could do that with your clips, you could do that with your audio, you could do that with your graphics. In this case, I did it with that on there. Or you can move it. So if you wanted to move this instead over here, then you could just move that graphic. It's overlaid on top. Now, if you move this title to the bottom where your videos are, you'll see it just over black. But when it's on top of a video, it's an overlay over your video. So in this case, we want it overlaying over our video, our graphic in that case, and then playing on that. So that's it. So while I'm talking about transitions, let's add some transitions in there. So we're going to change our workspace to effects because it is an effect. It's going to show up here on the side. Audio effects are for your sound. Video effects are for your videos, and there are different things you could do to the video. But in this case, we want video transitions. So I'm going to open the window, open the folder, and then it'll show me all sorts of crazy transitions. Unfortunately, you can't really preview it before you put it on, so the only way to know is to actually just put it on. So I'm going to open my slides, and they have a name here, so you could kind of guess what it is. So a whip slide, I don't even know what that is. I'm going to grab it with my left mouse button and drag it in between shots because it's transitions between shots, how you get from shot to shot. And then when I hit play, ooh, it's kind of nice, a whip slide. So if I don't like it, Control Z to undo, or if I click right on it, I can just hit delete on the keyboard and it'll delete, and then I can try a different one. So those are your transitions, and again, you drag them between your videos on there. I did like that one, so I'm going to put it back. Whip slide. So you do need to add a few transitions. If we look at the storyboard here, have at least 2 video transitions, and then we're going to add our music next. So go back to our Prelude workspace. We added some music, so if you double click this one, you can tell it's music because it only has audio. There's no picture with it. When you double click it, it'll load, and it has what we call waveforms, so you could see the volume levels of it. So if you drag the whole thing, it's going to be really long. It's 1 minute and 30, and right now our clips are only 48 seconds. So instead, I'm going to mark an in and out on there. So in, and then roughly, let's say 50 seconds long, I'll mark an out over out, or this button here. Now, when I try to drag from the video like I did before, it won't let me drag, but that's because there is no video. So instead, I have to drag from the secret button down here that says drag audio only. So then when I hold my left mouse button, it's like a hand, and it will let me drag and drop. And again, if I drop on this track, it'll delete whatever's there. So I'm just going to use track 2 and drop it in. And I can see it's a little short. So I still can trim. So when that red arrow pops up, I can trim to make it longer on there. And then there's my audio. I could see it playing over here without listening to it. And just like I did with that graphic, when I hover over the end of it, that red arrow pops up. When I click, right click, apply default, lets me add a fade, or a dissolve in this case. It's a fade, but hit play, and then the music fades out. It's kind of fast, so if I double click on it, I can change the time, and this time I probably want it to fade a little slower, so maybe a 4-second transition, and you see how it got bigger. So when I bring it back and hit play, and it starts to fade all the way out. Same thing with fading to black at the end of my clip here. You still have to add your logo and according to our storyboard, but I'm just going to show you. Fade to black. So same thing. When it's that red arrow at the back end, apply default, and it will fade to black because there's nothing behind it. And then my music fades and my video fades, and I've added 2 fades to black on that one. So that is how you do your music on there. So it also wants me to add voiceover. So voiceover is in here. It's named voiceover. When I double click on it, I'm going to zoom a little so you could see your track. So this over here, the side of your timeline is a zoom in and out so you could see your tracks better. So now I'm going to see that A3 track is empty. So over here, I'm going to find the beginning of where I say this is my voiceover. For the blue moon. 1, 2, So I'm hitting spacebar to pause and play. So right there is where I want it to start. I'm going to mark in, hit I on the keyboard. This is the voiceover for the Blue Moon clips. And then I'm going to hit spacebar again to stop or stop and then mark it out. So now I want just this. And again, if I drag from this window, it's going to bring in the video and the audio. I just want the audio this time. So then I'm going to drag audio only using this little button here, and I'm going to move it down to track 3. If I move it to track 2, it deletes my music. If I move it to track 1, it deletes my sound of my clips. So I'm going to move it over here. And then again, you can still trim, move it, whatever you need to do around here. When I watch, this is the voiceover for the Blue Moon clips.